Hey everyone, Wyatt here from Winnipeg Historical Fencing Club. In my interpretation of English longsword, roundies are horizontal cuts done over your head, usually attacking your opponent's head. We do them as horizontal cuts because our vertical cuts are already taken by our hawks, quarters, and rakes. And as roundies being our last common cut in the English longsword systems, it makes sense that it would be a horizontal cut. We do them over our head because in Harleyan, he mentions double rounds standing borne over the head. And then if we do them as our horizontal cuts, the sword goes around our head. So this kind of follows the name roundy of being a cut around the head. I do my roundies typically with the true edge leading. You can also do it with the false edge leading. When you do it with the false edge leading, you're kind of committing to that cut. It's really hard to change your cut to something else mid-motion. You've kind of committed to that way your hands lead with that false edge. So I usually do it true edge because once I've begun the motion, I do have a bit of time to change my cut to even rising, or a horizontal cut on the other side, or just straight down, or I can go to the roundy. Because once I get to here, before I commit to my foot, I have that chance to change my hands to whatever cut I want. But with the false edge, you're kind of committed. You can't really do any other cuts from that position. So I typically do my roundies starting with the false edge and then coming around, starting with the true edge and then coming around with the false edge. It's not saying starting with the false edge is wrong, but that's just the way I do starting with the true edge. You can also start from a higher position or close to the finestra or something and come around with the false edge that way as well. So there's other ways to get into it, start and to cut with either edge on either side. So it makes it quite a versatile cut in that way. So our roundies can be done in a variety of footwork, including passes forward, passes back, as well as mention of being done with cock steps, which I have as just advancing steps rather than a pass. We have mention of single rounds, which are mentioned in the poem in Harleyan as well as in Cotton Titus. So these would just be our single horizontal cut, and then from there on you continue whatever the action or the play calls for. But most typically we have mention of double rounds. So this would be our first cut, and then our double round would be our full cut that circles all the way around the head. And this would be what our double round is, and that's what we typically find is our double round being a quick succession of two cuts. We also have mention of half rounds as well. You have two half rounds with two cock steps, which I mentioned earlier, and two half rounds with turn thrust and another play. So for me, the half rounds I have, rather than going all the way around the head, I kind of just have them, basically it's just a transitioning your blade on the other side of your opponent's, just as kind of making a half circle around yourself or your blade rather than that full circle all the way around. So that's what I have for my half rounds. It kind of makes sense with the cock step, just these quick little cuts with quick little footwork. And the other one at the turn thrust, you would probably be attacking it horizontally, bringing it around, and then turning the thrust and thrusting into your opponent. The last thing I want to mention is just about the spelling of roundy and interpreting in general. And we get this a lot with roundies and Harleyan, and it's spelled differently almost every time. Sometimes in the same play you'll get it spelled differently 3 different times. One time with an I, the next time with a Y, next time with a U. And it lets us know that they didn't know what they were doing or how to spell the best back then. So we can't take everything we read in these old manuals exactly as they're spelt all the time. And that's why we get different interpretations as well. And we have to acknowledge that everyone kind of sees these words or might interpret them differently, because a lot of the times they're just not even spelt the same, or they might sound differently than they're spelt. And roundy is a great example of that, of being spelt differently multiple times in the same play. So that's all I have to say on roundies. I hope you enjoyed. If you have your own interpretation, please comment and share, and I hope you liked the video. Thanks.